Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to Second Parish Unitarian Universalist. And welcome as we meet together this morning to remember and celebrate the life of Glenn Johanson. Beloved son, brother, uncle, cousin, friend, and neighbor to so many of you. As we move through this service and through the days to come and the years to follow, let us be honest with death. Let us not pretend that it is less than it is. It is separation. It is sorrow. It is grief. But let us neither pretend that death is more than it is. It is not annihilation. As long as memory endures, his legacy will be felt. It is not an end to love. Humanity's need for love from each of us is boundless. Let us pray. Dear God, known by many names, held in so many different hearts, please hear our prayer. We meet here seeking comfort and meaning, courage and memories. As we attempt to adjust to this new world without Glenn, help us to know that though physically gone, he is around us still, in our hearts that will always continue to love him, in our laughter and our tears as we embrace the many wonderful memories he has given to us, in the glint of sunlight on a bright blue wave as a sailboat glides through the water. We hope for him the peace and joy of reunion with his dear mother and nephew Andrew. And though we cannot yet know what form that blessed reunion may take, help us to trust that it is so, and to feel the strength of their united spirits ever present in our lives. Let us join now in saying the Lord's Prayer, ancient words that have comforted people through the ages. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Glenn's sister Beth will now read Psalm 23 for us.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. Okay. Thank you for coming today. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall lack nothing. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. You are my rod and my staff. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life. I will dwell in the house of the Lord.
Thank you, Beth. Glenn's cousin Carly will now sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane, just just a step beyond the rain. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney top. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, birds fly over the rainbow, white and white and high. If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Thank you, Kylie. We come to a time in the program now where we will have remembrances of Glenn. Glenn was a gifted and a loving man with a zest for expressing his enthusiastic visions in so many ways. As a high school student, he brought the audience to its feet with a multimedia presentation that won him first prize in a talent show. And yet he could find full expression in much smaller, personal moments. When his mother passed away a year and a half ago, Glenn placed a wishbone in her casket. And here is his explanation of why he did that in his own words. He writes, "As long as I remember, Mom saved the wishbone. Every Thanksgiving turkey and baked chicken, she saved the wishbone, drying it in the kitchen window sunlight. Later, she would ask me to break it with our pinky fingers. We made a wish for ourselves behind closed eyelids. We pulled it apart. She usually won. A week ago, I was cooking a chicken and used all of it. Roasting for supper, salad for lunch, stock for soup. All things delicious and nutritious, just as Mother had taught me many years ago. I also saved the wishbone for her. I cleaned it and dried it. And the next time I went to Cushing Street, I hung it in her kitchen window without telling her, wanting her to discover it among her windowsill plants. She didn't have enough time to discover that wishbone. I will leave that wishbone with her now, one final time. I like to think that all of her best wishes have come true, and her future ones will come true. I love you, Mom. Best wishbones forever." We're going to share more memories of Glenn now, beginning with his good friend Ollie, who will share some of his memories. After Ollie speaks, I would invite any of you who would like to come forward to do so, and let us all know Glenn.
I hope I can do this without the microphone. Can you hear me? Good. Good morning. As you just said, I'm Ollie Hallowell, a close and ongoing friend ever since I met him way back when he was in her early 20s. We were BFFs, as they say in text, although I thought forever would last a lot longer than it did. I nor anyone was at all prepared for today, so forgive me, but I'm going to have to read my remarks. In the state my head's been in these last few days, there's no way I can do justice to the memory of my extraordinary friend if I try to speak spontaneously. Glenn, like most of us, had many different sides. In fact, I think Glenn's life was more compartmentalized than most people. One of the few people who was privy to most, if not even all, of his sides. I can see that this gathering today consists of people from various parts of Glenn's life who are probably just familiar with one or maybe two sides of Glenn. So I'd like to try to paint you a more complete picture. The first side I will talk about is Glenn the mentor. I don't think many of the friends I know are even aware that for the last few years, Glenn had been working in the South Shore school system as what is called a para. A para is an adult who is assigned to a young student with learning and or behavioral problems. Glenn entered into this work with the same attitude that I've been taking on all sorts of non-AD related jobs, just to do something, anything, to earn a bit of money while waiting for the real job to finally come along. But as Glenn got more and more involved in this new line of work, he started liking it more and more. He was great at it. He loved being appreciated and valued, and his students loved him back. Well, most of them. Some of these kids were adorable. Students who need powers generally could be considered misfits. Kids with brains that just didn't work the way they were supposed to. Kids who were smart or who couldn't keep track of assignments or pay attention to basic social skills. Often Glenn had to do his supervision anonymously because the embarrassed student didn't want other classmates to know he needed this extra help. Today I brought with me three physical objects that I think epitomize the three sides of Glenn's life I'm going to describe. And the first one of these is a short report written just earlier this year by Glenn's student Jamil. I'm not sure of Jamil's age, but I think he was about 10 or 11. The assignment was from an English class where the student had to write an essay about what the word hero meant to him or her, and then describe a personal example of a hero. The hero couldn't be a family member, so typically it would be an athlete for boys, or maybe Oprah or a female vocalist for girls. Here's what Jamil wrote. What a hero means to me is when someone helps you with something you don't understand. I think Mr. Johanson is a hero for me to get luck. He helps me with my science work. I'm failing it, so he's preparing me for the tomorrow. Also, he helps me in art class. Yesterday he did some cutting and pasting with me. Plus, Mr. Johanson keeps me from avoiding any trouble, and he's my one and only go-pair. I'm so lucky I have Mr. Johanson as a hero. He helps, avoids, and follows me. And he avoids, I think, this is one of the ones that you do want to know when he's helping him. I think in general, kids didn't even like their parents, just another adult telling them what to do, let alone calling one a hero in life. But Glenn's gentle and sweet side made him a natural for this job, and it really worked. I think I can say for certain that Glenn was as proud, if not more so, of this report than he was of any of the many professional awards he received in his career in media. The second side of Glenn I will describe is Glenn the media guru, a side that evolved into Glenn the entrepreneur. When I and many of Glenn's friends just first met him, he was primarily a programmer of slideshows. For those of you who don't know what that means, a programmer had to program the software needed to run and coordinate any number of projectors. 27 wasn't unheard of, in perfect synchronization. Glenn could do this, as could a handful of others in the New England area, but I think what made Glenn unique was the degree he could do this with artistry and a cool head, no attitude whatsoever. It was a stressful profession, But Glenn didn't get stressed. You want to change everything I just did? Okay, let me try this. One former client of Glenn's emailed me this week about a giant show she was producing in Arizona, where technically everything was going south and everyone was in a state of panic. Here's what she wrote. My memories of Glenn are a generous, funny, warm guy, and in work-related situations, he always had my back. I vividly recall a meeting I was doing in Arizona. At the last minute, I remember calling Glenn and asking him to fly out to Arizona in a snowstorm, drive 2 hours to Tucson, and rescue us at a nightmare Gillette meeting where we were using Macromine Director and no one knew what they were doing. Nothing worked. We called Glenn and jumped on a plane. We stayed up for 3 nights straight. Glenn single-handedly pressed 3 controls at once and made the damn thing move. Most importantly, he did it with good humor and a no-problem attitude. We were just so damn grateful. Glenn's professional expertise eventually led him to found a digital media company called Planet Interactive. Many of us have lots of great memories of Planet, but I'm only going to describe one specific component of Planet, one that I think exemplifies the uniqueness and the essence of Glenn. Not content to run a company just filled with computer nerds, married to their keyboards and screens, it was at Planet that Glenn came up with the concept and successful execution of the Museum of Dirt. Item number 2. If you go onto YouTube and type in Museum of Dirt, you can see a nice short little piece that the TV News Chronicle, short chronicle did about the museum. And I urge you to do this. It's great. But those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, let me describe it. The Museum of Dirt was both tongue-in-cheek and a serious enterprise at the same time. Glenn lined the walls of the lobby and main conference room of his company with beautifully designed metallic shelves on which he placed a few hundred samples of dirt in small glass bottles. He solicited samples from friends and travelers all over the globe. The types of dirt ranged from the purely literal to the outrageous and metaphorical. To cite a few examples, he had dirt from the Great Wall of China, pink sand from a beach in Bermuda, dirt from the Acropolis, Omaha Beach, the Alamo. He also has samples from places like Julia Child's compost heap, Martha Stewart's pristine driveway, lint from the humorous Dave Barry's dryer. Being Glenn, he did of course have several outrageous samples, like from a pile of elephant dung in Nairobi, dirt from the exact spot on the sidewalk where actor Hugh Grant was arrested for soliciting a prostitute, or from the yards of former homes of notorious serial killers. He hit Dahmer, he hit scary dirt, historic dirt, fun dirt. There was one large bottle that contained dirt from Times Square on New Year's Eve, and it consisted mainly of confetti and theater stubs. It was quite a collection. The Museum of Dirt was largely what transformed what could have been a dreary industrial computer lab into one of the coolest places to work in town. I'll read an excerpt from another email I received this week from one of Planet's young employees. I learned how to code HTML because of the Museum of Dirt. As an intern at Planet, guess who got to fill some of those bottles? The elephant dung sample. Yeah, I filled that one. So yes, the Museum of Dirt was a big time from my time at Planet. The third and final side of Glenn that I'll describe to you today is Glenn the Outrageous. Maybe this is making some of you a bit nervous, but from my point of view, Glenn was outrageously wonderful. Well, I guess fabulous would be a more appropriate word. I don't think I've ever met anyone who has such an enormous appetite for life, fun, sensuality. Glenn was Rabelaisian, if I could use a word that harkens back to my days of studying French literature. Rabelais wrote of extravagant mythical characters whose first words at birth were, "Let's eat, let's drink." One of the many things I'm grateful to Glenn for is that he pushed me into having more fun in life as well. Contrary to my reputation, I'm actually a fairly shy and timid person, but Glenn would not let me get away with this. Glenn the Outrageous was much like Sally Bowles at Cabaret. the character who I think popularized the phrase divine decadence. Put down the book and the broom, time for a holiday, life is a cabaret, old chum, so come to the cabaret. Start by admitting from cradle to tomb, isn't that long a stay, life is a cabaret, old chum, so come to the cabaret. And Glenn made sure I did put down my book and my broom and join in at the cabaret with fellow chums like his close friend Piquet and Mike Murphy. My life has been a lot more fun because of Glenn's urging. So thank you. There's a more contemporary version of the song that I just quoted with this same theme, a song that Glenn particularly liked, and I believe the lyrics will be read as part of this memorial. Third and final object that I think epitomizes Glenn the outrageous. Glenn created a drag persona known as Mora. I was the one who gave her this name. Mora is more. Get it? The word less was simply not part of Mora's vocabulary. Mora was larger than life, a woman of the world with insatiable appetites. To paraphrase the ancient Chinese truism, I think one shoe says 1,000 words. This shoe belonged to Mora. I think it's a size 22. To backtrack briefly, and to help put Mora in the proper context she deserves, Glenn had strong and outstanding family values, as they call them. This is actually a fourth side of Glenn, his love of family and especially of kids. But today I'm sticking to only 3 sides, so I'm rolling this into Glenn the Outrageous. My 5 kids, nephews and nieces, all adored him, and he adored them. Glenn and I used to take them on overnight ski trips where they got to know him well. We often stayed at a place called the Scandinavian. And of course, we sat up late and broke every rule we could, and the kids just loved it. In fact, I think their estimation of me rose a lot higher for having such a cool friend. To this day, even though they're all adults now, they still call him Uncle Glenn, and most of them actually cried this week when I told them the news. I mention this because my middle niece, Anna, invited Glenn to her wedding in Provincetown. And although neither my family nor the groom's family is particularly conservative, they sure weren't prepared when Glenn showed up in a pedicab, held by a young, handsome man, of course, as Mora. All 6 feet 3 inches to her, made even taller by those ridiculous shoes. I did bring photographs for anyone who dares to see them. My niece Anna wrote me yesterday reminding me how much she loved having Mora add her outrageous presence to her wedding celebration. Although Anna did say, and I quote from her email, Mora definitely broke the first rule of weddings. Don't outshine the bride. I think Provincetown is a fitting place for me to conclude my remarks. Provincetown was where Glenn was the happiest in life. It was his paradise on earth. In the back of my mind, I entertained the idea that one day, far in the future, I was thinking, Glenn and I would retire and buy a house there, and we would walk to tea dance in the afternoons on our fabulously decorated walkers. This is not going to happen, but let me tell you what is. Glenn's family is in the process of setting up a fund for me to use to design and create a memorial for him in Provincetown, something worthy of Glenn's creativity and character. My hope is to place this memorial in the cemetery in Provincetown, near or next to the marker for Glenn's nephew Andrew. This has always been a sacred spot for Glenn. I will do this sometime this summer, and I'll let you know about it when I do. And I'll urge you, whenever you visit that uniquely wonderful town on the tip of the Cape, to go visit this memorial and think back on how lucky you were to have known such a warm and loving and talented and just plain fabulous person. Thank you.
Thank you, Ollie. Thank you so much. Now, is there anybody else who would like to say something, a memory you have of Glenn, or words that you would like to share? Would you like to come forward, or do you want me to, I can come to you too?
Holly. That was really, really nice. My name is Joan DeCalvis, and I was Glenn's partner at Planet for many years. And I didn't write this stuff down. I wished I had, because now that I'm here with all of you, it's really hitting me just how awesome Glenn was. So Glenn, when I think of him, was, to me, was a collaborator. He was my business partner along with Dave Libby, and he was a friend. And when I think of him as a collaborator, as Holly described, in the early days when I met him, it was in the early 80s, we would work all around town at different places as freelancers, making these great big slideshows. And you'd go up to the platform, particularly at Envision, I remember this. The platform was Glenn's. And you'd go up with your trays of slides, and you'd be thinking, I'm not ready for Glenn, I have to give this to him, and you'd hand it over, and you'd tell him all the things that were missing, and he'd say, oh, just come back later, don't worry. And you'd come back later, and whatever you had made, he would make just so much better. I mean, he just was an incredibly talented person at what he did, and he would do it with such kindness and care. And I remember once walking up to the platform, thinking it's Monday morning here at work. And when I went in, Glenn was wearing pajamas that were pink. And he didn't say anything, neither did I. I was like, oh, hi, Glenn, here's my slides. It might have been Halloween, I think. But that's, he was always full of surprises in that way. And then as my partner at Planet, Glenn was really the heart of Planet. And he helped us all create a culture that, for any of you Planeteers out there, will think of it as just the best place that we ever worked. And he brought people together with such compassion and care, always looking out for everybody, and making sure that what we did was great too. And it was an honor to work with him. I remember going to his office, sweating it some days, and saying, Glenn, we don't have any work coming, what are we going to do? And Glenn would say, well, let's just see what happens. And then I would go back in my office, and about a day or week or so later, the phone would ring, we get a new job, and I'd come back to him and say, yeah, you were right. So he had a patience, like an incredible patience about him, where he didn't worry about the same stuff that I did, so it was a nice situation where we could play off each other. And then the friend part, Glenn was an incredible friend to so many people. The story I have is from P-Town, where my daughter, who's here in the back, and I and my daughter Lucy took the ferry to P-Town to go sailing with Glenn. And he loved to sail, and he had a great boat. I love to sail too. And we went out on the boat, it was a beautiful day, and we kind of had a time challenge because we had to catch the ferry back to Boston. So we're out sailing, and on the way back the wind died down, we needed the motor. And something was going wrong, and Glenn said, oh, I think the motor's caught up with something here. And he looked under and he realized there was a rope caught up in the motor, and he goes, oh, we'll have to fix that. And I said, yeah, that looks bad, we'll have to fix that. So he went down below and he came up with a mask and a knife. And he said, here, put this on, go down there. So I looked over at my daughter, who was like about 10, my dog, and I thought, seriously, you want me to go under there? And, but Glenn had that skill. He was really good at getting people to join him in whatever activity he was doing. He was just great at that. Just somebody I will cherish forever, and I know that we all will. So, that's me. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm Allison. I'm also was a co-worker with Glenn and could echo everything Joan and Ollie said. But what I'll talk about, I think, is the children's side. I too had 2 children, and Glenn was, when they were just born, he came over to my loft, and he was just like, amazing with children. It was a side I'd never seen. But particularly when I gave birth to Owen, my son, who's now 17, Glenn brought over the most outrageous stuffed animal I've ever seen. It was tall, and it was bright pink, and it had feathers and fluff. And, you know, and I thought, like, wow, my daughter loved it. And, you know, and I was like, no, that's an Owens, Lana, you know, and she was just like, oh, and that's pink, and that's outrageous. And I was like, well, it's Owens. And, like, it's really interesting because in this day and age, where other people gave me some sports stuff, he mostly wore his sister hand-me-downs, but there have been many stuffed animals and beanie babies that have come and gone out this room. There have been rocks that have come in and gone out, lots of Legos. And in the dusty corner of one side is this huge pink outrageous animal, which I think he keeps around to say it's all right to be crazy. It's all right to be like, you know, wild and flamboyant. And it's all right to, you know, like pink. Even everybody should like pink, you know? So anyway, Glenn was a really good friend. He made me better at what I did all the time. Like, and he had such huge faith in people too. Like when we did a project for the AIDS quilt, there was a, I believe the artist was from Portland. They might have been a California artist. It was an illustrator who's seen everywhere. And Glenn had approached him and said, I'm doing this project, will you do the illustrations? And what came back was a cocktail napkin of like, this is a great project, this is what I think it could be. And Glenn gave me the cocktail napkin and said, well, you know the illustrator, he's given us his approval, this is the design, so go illustrate this for me. And it was like, I thought, I had never done this before. And it was one of the most rewarding projects. And like it's for, you know, he encouraged people to get out of their comfort zone, to, you know, to spread their wings and to grow. And he did it like so gently and with such such a creative eye. You know, it was just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm David Willoughby. I met Glenn in the early 90s, working together at a place called the Interactive Factory, where we were sharing studio space, coming together to explore and invent a new culture of digital multimedia. Joan and Glenn and I started Planet Interactive together to be able to take it into a commercial business, and it grew into a wonderful place. As Ollie and Joan have said, it was probably the best place that I've ever worked. It was a wonderful environment for new people to learn about and invent the new digital multimedia and internet multimedia that we started and created there. I was responsible for technology in a lot of cases. Joan was great with the business, but Glenn really created the culture and was responsible for finding some wonderful people to mentor and grow to become just incredible programmers and designers and animators. He transformed the building that we had our office space in from really drab cement headquarters to a wonderful, flamboyant, colorful office with wonderful parties for all of our customers and friends and employees. Just such an offbeat sense of humor to refinish the cement floors, to paint the walls, to develop the Museum of Dirt, the signs on the men and women's room that people could interact with and change, the robotic dog that we had, playing Santa at our holiday parties, and choosing gifts for each employee that had a special meaning for them. It was just such a wonderful place and time, and I'm really going to miss him.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see so many people here celebrating Glenn. Such a beautiful day in such a beautiful church. Good morning, I'm Mr. Johanson. I'm sorry for everyone's loss, but as I was driving down here today, I thought to myself, boy, Glenn would really love this day. What a beautiful day, what a beautiful church, and all these people showing up right now. He would just really enjoy it. He would want more cameras, though. He would definitely. I also met Glenn in the 80s, and that was back when we had really big shoulders and really big hair, and I missed the really big hair. I missed the hair. He was the most interesting person I had ever met. This big, huge blonde guy came walking towards me at the bar, and we instantly became friends. And it turns out that we grew up towns next to each other. I grew up in Norwell. He grew up here in Hingham. And we always had fun. I hear so many testimonies today about Glenn's work. I was his friend. That's all we ever did. I never knew the side of his work. I knew he worked, but we always hung out. We got into a lot of trouble with each other. We needed a Mr. Johanson para to watch it. And it was always so much fun. There was always so much joy. It was always bigger than life. Everything we ate was a law. Everything we drank was a law. Every boat we rode on had to go faster. It was fun. It was wonderful. I was going to read something today about Glenn's life, but it's not as important as what I'm saying right now. I too am going to miss Glenn, like all of us are going to miss Glenn. I really loved him, and I think he's watching us right now. I think he's here with us all, and I really think that he's having a good time. He's with us now. So everyone, enjoy today. Really think about Glenn. Think of the good side. And thank you for your kind words.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
I'm Stephanie Monroe, and I was a friend of Ollie's, so naturally became a friend of Glenn's, which was the beginning of it too. And I just wanted to complete the trifecta of what Joan and Allison and Glenn's relations to children, because I had a daughter, Zoe, who was about their age. And when we brought her home, about 2 days after we brought her home, Glenn shows up. And what's his gift? It's not a pink elephant or a pink toy. It's membership in the Pee Wee Herman family. And I have to say, it had a profound effect on her, even though at the time she didn't know that. But 2 weeks ago, she's sitting at our table, she's now almost 24, wearing a Pee Wee t-shirt saying, I'm a rebel. And so he got her when she was young. And one of the high points of her life was, we were on the ferry to Provincetown. I think Zoe was about 11, kind of reminding about Aurora and Joan going there. And I think we were visiting Ollie, but on the ferry was Glenn. So it was like, oh, hi, let's all get together. And Glenn was such a provocateur. He loved children, and he knew how to impress them and get them just to bring them forward. And he opened his bag and he turned to Zoe and said, well, you might like this. I'm becoming my drag persona here. More is more. And what he did, I think he might have shown her a shoe. I don't know. But it was the rhinestone jewelry. And she was in heaven, helping him pick out the best rhinestones. And then to cap it off, he says, why don't we all have lunch? So I think we met up with Ollie, and there we were at some sidewalk cafe, and he just sidles up, totally dressed as more is more. And my daughter has never forgotten it, and to this day watches RuPaul's Drag Race. And I think, because Glenn, again, get him young and get him on the right path. And he was able to do that. He was foolish.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I'm sure there will be many memories shared at the reception, but I'm going to ask Glenn's sister Beth to speak as our last speaker in the remembrances.
Take a deep breath. I'll try not to fall apart. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm really honored that you're all here today. As people were speaking, some extra things came to my mind about Glenn. And one of the first ones is these flowers, birds of paradise, which was one of Glenn's favorite tropical flowers, so I wanted to mention that. And I wanted to mention that there's a slideshow on a computer running in the back with a lot of pictures, and it's in a Vimeo format, and if you want me to send it to you privately later, just Facebook me and I can send you the link to it, so feel free to get back with me on that. And one of the things that you might see in the slideshow, there are some bricks, and the name of Glenn's sailboat was Sinbad. And I guess, I'm not really sure how it all came about, but I think Glenn wanted to donate to the town of Provincetown when they were making this brick area, and so he purchased a brick and they had it installed in that area. So if you're ever in Provincetown and you see bricks, look for, do you know the name of the other boat that's next to it? Madness and Sinbad something. So look for that if you're over there, and that is one place that you'll remember seeing Glenn. So now I'll read what I wrote. In the last 6 or so years, I spent a lot of time with Glenn. I was unemployed for a couple of years, and so I was back and forth from Hingham, from Chicago. And I was able to we spent a lot of time together. And even in the last 2.5 years, I come home on vacations during the summer and Christmas, and he and I we would go out together and do a lot of things, which I'll read to. One of the things that we did in the last few years is that we celebrated my brother Paul and my sister-in-law Maya's wedding together up in New Hampshire at the Wentworth Hotel. We had fun painting my parents' house together a few years. In August, the last movie we saw together down at the shipyard was Elysium. So if you've seen it, you kind of can think this is kind of a strange twist. Glenn and I would always look for a new place to eat appetizers and talk about our lives. Places like the Fours in Norwell and Quincy, Hingham Beer Works, Burton's, or Stars, or any Asian or seafood place where he could get some sushi or oysters on the half shell. Our relationship was much like most other siblings. We would give each other the look when one of our parents had something strange or weird to say, and we didn't quite think the rest of the world would get it. And so Glenn and I would always be laughing together, and we had a very fun, it looked like we always had a little secret with one of my cousins going, and that nobody really knew what we were laughing about. As most siblings, there's always a sibling in the group that can do something that causes the other one to get in trouble, and I was the one that always got in trouble. So Glenn would often come along and poke me, which, right here, because there's a lot to poke. And he loved to just poke me, and I'd laugh or make a motion or yell at him or something, and so I always got in trouble, because I was the one always making these, I was making the ruckus and Mom didn't like that. So I want you to think that the next time that you're on Facebook and you poke someone, think about what my brother Glenn did to me, and maybe you'll remember him in your heart a little more. Because he'll always poke me in many ways and many days and times. And I'll always remember that. When I think or hear of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the Broadway musical, P-Town, or I look up at the stars in the sky, I will think of Glenn. Excuse me. Take another breath, I'll take I never knew Maura. I'm okay with that. wonderful time with our friend Leaf and Dad. And as we dropped the sails and headed for the yacht club, smoke, or really steam, started to fill the cabin. Our Nordic friend Leaf decided to go down and try and find out what was wrong with the engine. And he diagnosed it and found out that it was probably just the thermostat in that old engine that Dad thinks is so awesome and wonderful and he should never break down. In the future, they will still accept donations, I don't know. He also wants his ashes to be the final donation to the Museum of Dirt. It's happening, and I'm sorry, this is planned. Thank you for Just wanted to mention that we will be spreading his ashes in Hingham Harbor, Provincetown Harbor, and over my nephew's grave in Provincetown, as well as some ashes will be buried in the place that Ollie's able to secure with the memorial fund that we have created. And we will be placing a smaller urn down on top of my mom's grave here in Hingham. And there will be some sort of memorial plaque there or something, or remember, of him. Paul and I, we're in the home. We were looking at a big urn because we didn't find Glenn's will until much later, but there were two small triangular, like pyramid urns, and one of them was a purple, like marble, faux marble, and it just was Glenn when we found that little one. It just was really sweet. I just have felt Glenn this week and everything that we've been doing, planning, and I'm just really sad to lose my big brother. I know you all knew him and loved him, and I'm so grateful for everything that you've done for us this week. I think I'm done. Just want to make sure. I just want to close with a quote, and it's by Ricky Skaggs. That has nothing to do with Glenn, but the quote says, "I can't control the wind, but I can adjust the sail." It's the plan for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mike, would you come forward, please, and read for us the lyrics to "I Have Lived"? Where's Mike?
Done this before. These are some lyrics from a song, and friends asked me to read it because our take on it was that it really kind of tells you all about who Glenn was. Here it goes. When I take a one-way ticket to the road of no return, on a journey every person must make someday. When it's time to meet my maker and explain my sins away, I will tell him, yes, I'll tell him I've lived. I have lived each single moment as a man of flesh and blood, with my soul and all my senses open wide. I have lived and tasted everything that ever called out to be tried. I'm afraid of neither heaven nor hell, never caring if I ever had a soul to sell. I was no more optimistic than my fellow man would be. I've always been an artist, not a saint. Now the neon lights are dimming no more costumes, no more paint. I admit that I was selfish. I have lived. I have lived a life of running after joy and happiness, with my feelings always tearing at my heart. Oh my Lord, I should have thought of my salvation at the start. But I've lived so many mornings, and I was told you would always take a sinner back in the fold. If my reason seem too fragile and my words of no effect, and forgiveness is the one thing I must win, I'll explain my life, and I'll show you all I am, and all I've been, and I'll say in my defense, well, I have lived. I have lived with a soul on fire with desire in my skin, in the name of everyone I've ever known. I've worshipped every shrine of love, and if I must at all be ready, then to kneel and pay the price for the yesterdays I spent in paradise. I have lived a life.
Thank you. Thank you so much for gathering this morning to remember the life of Glenn Johanson. How I wished I had known him. What a beautiful, beautiful tribute to his person and his joy and his life, and how love holds us in this moment right now. Please continue to remember Glenn, and immediately after the service, as we meet in Cushing Hall for a light refreshment, talk with each other about how you know Glenn. To get to Cushing Hall, you either can go through this small door here, or you can go out through the front of the church and around the building and into the hall, where I'm sure all the Johansons will be very happy to hear your words and to know of your friendship and your love. We have heard loving words of remembrance of Glenn. Hold fast your memories. Hold fast the gift of his life. Let his legacy of love and joy continue in the actions and the emotions of your life. And may you always know his comforting presence. Amen.
Thank you.